This is why you died.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to This Is Why You Died, the horror show where we pick prompts at random and an evil urge inspires our choice of horror movie based on those prompts, and we just end up bitching about why someone died in a dumb way in a horror movie. My name is Sir Ian Dangerous, aka your Uncle Frank, and still not having forgiven me for showing them Hellraiser and introducing them to the real Uncle Frank are my co-hosts here in the wilds of the city of Los Angeles, Dan Marcha Madness and Ryan Ross Live. Welcome to the show, guys. How are we doing?
Feeling good. Ready about this movie.
Oh my God.
Excited to talk about this movie.
Yeah.
This one's a fun one.
So excited. We've got so much stuff to do. I mean, we're just coming off of 3 episodes back to back where we did double feature. We did 2 movies an episode, and we're going back to 1 movie on this episode. And I still feel like we're going to be running long because there's so much to talk about when it comes to this movie. But even that being said, I wanted to check in with you guys, see if anything's new, see what's going on. Got any stories? Got any gossip? What's going on with you guys right now?
All right, so I got one. So I was trying to be a good dad, and I got a Switch for my daughters. I feel like they were at the age where I was at when I got my Nintendo. So I was like, I'm going to get a Nintendo Switch. So I get them, Mario Kart and the fun stuff. And I was like, wait.
A Switch or a Switch 2?
Just the first Switch. I wasn't trying to go big on this first one because I didn't even know if they're going to like it, play this thing. But then I realized, oh man, I could play this thing. So not only did I get Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2.
There it is. For the kids.
Yeah, for the kids. But so I'm like living my nostalgia of playing Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 and listening to Rage Against the Machine, and I love that game. But then I realized that they had Resident Evil 4, and I haven't played that game in years. And so I was like, yes. So I ordered it, and it's like this 3-pack. You get Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6. And so 5 and 6 are very arcadey. I know that they're not as like, they're very much just like shoot the zombies as you go. But I wanted to revisit Resident Evil 4 because that's just such a beloved game. And you know what I realized? I suck at that game so bad. I was like getting through the village parts, a few little houses. Like I'm doing pretty good. And once you get to the main village and everybody starts attacking you, I was like, what button does what? I'm pausing it. I'm trying to ask Google. I'm like, I don't know the directions. How do I shoot? How do I run? I can't even turn around. I'm getting like chainsawed everywhere. I was like, I am terrible at this game. I forgot how bad I was at this opening.
For a horror guy, you would not survive the zombie apocalypse, is what you're saying.
I died so many times. Freaking Leon and his terribly written script. It's really bad writing in these games. They're so bad. But like it's like,
and this is the original Resident Evil 4, not the remaster, right? Not the remake?
Not the remaster. This is the original. They like just brought it to the platform, so it's. I mean, it looks good, but but it felt throwback. But it was just like I totally forgot about the mechanics.
Because correct me if I'm wrong. That still got tank controls, right? You can't strafe.
No,
you have to turn.
I'm trying to
walk.
I'm like, why can't I go left or right? I guess I'm used to playing like Last of Us, which has amazing controls where you can really like kind of survive. And I was like, why do I have to turn and walk and then turn again? I'm like, what is this clunkiness? I'm like, there's people coming at me with pitchforks and chainsaws. I gotta survive.
He's doing the robot in the village.
Run this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, oh, we'll run this way. I will shoot like this. I was like, just fucking reload your gun, man. Just reload. And it would not. And I died many times. So it's hard.
Nostalgically speaking, for me, I remember it very well. And I remember when Dead Space came out, in as far as like horror games are concerned, and Dead Space was so good. And it was the first one where you actually could strafe and move side, when you actually had some like real smooth movement. And Resident Evil was still 5 and 6. They still went with tank controls. And it was just, you couldn't play them anymore. Once you got strafe into a survival horror game, it was all over. The frontier had been reached and you couldn't go back. And I gotta say, like, that's one reason I can't really go back and play the old Resident Evil games, because I was like, oh my God, I just want to walk sideways.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. I really wanted to hide behind stuff. And I guess I was just used to, like, Uncharted, and I'm used to, like, the Naughty Dog games where you can really do that stuff, the modern stuff. And I was just like, this is horrible. Like, I am gonna die so many times. I'm not surviving this survival horror game. So
I was just gonna say, all props to you, Dan, because that opening is a skill check. It has always been a skill check. So surviving that level is not guaranteed. Don't take it out on yourself. Give yourself some time. You'll make it happen.
Resident Evil is a series that I've never actually had the chance to play. I want to.
Oh, for crying out loud!
It's a series I never picked up. I'm familiar with some of the characters and stuff, but I will say, now that you have a Switch, that means that we can play Dead by Daylight together.
There it is. It is.
See, now that's
there
great,
it is.
But I am not letting go that you haven't played any Resident Evil games at all.
I haven't played any of them. I want to. They're on my list.
God.
But the problem is, it's one of those, like, at this point, it's one of those series that there's so many entries that, like, I'm gonna have to start at the beginning and, like, work my way through.
There's no excuse.
No
Excuse at all.
Play one. Go to 7. Pick up, just pick up 7, and it feels very much like Texas
I'm gonna
Chainsaw.
play from the beginning. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna play the whole thing. It's just I need to, but it's a commitment, you know.
This is one of those excuses where I'm not going to play it until I can play it from the beginning. 10 years later, I never started it. You know, I couldn't play any games because I had to go back to the beginning. And, you know, there really wasn't a good copy of the first one. And so I thought maybe I'd play the second one. But
They're
for
all
this
digital
point,
now.
it wasn't on sale. They weren't selling it anymore. So I just gave up.
I will say
it's Lord of the Rings all over again.
I was going to say, what's funny is I want you guys to know that because of our clip on social media, I got reached out to by so many people about Lord of the Rings that I actually have on my calendar now. We are watching the Lord of the Rings over a weekend. We're going to do the whole thing.
Good.
So
Finally.
I'm telling you, it will happen. It's just when.
Good. Well,
come over and play Resident Evil with me then. Get me through this opening level.
No,
I'm gonna go over go over and visit Dan, and we're gonna play Resident Evil together on his Switch. Well,
you're gonna help him get through it because you're the video game man, and apparently Dan is the horror movie man, not the horror video game man.
No,
there you go.
Now we know. Now we know the division.
I know my place in the team. I know my role.
You're there to help Dan get through the video game. Well, you're also here to help us get through this show because we have a great movie to talk about today. As I said at the top of the show, This Is Why You Died. We pick prompts at random, and then we choose movies based on those prompts. This week, it is my choice. I picked the prompt Behind, notably not behind, but behind. And so as a result, I picked It Follows, a modern classic from 2014. Fantastic movie, I thought. So I really wanted to show it to you guys, for us all to watch it. I'm assuming, Dan, you've seen it, and Ryan, you hadn't seen it before this. Am I correct in guessing that?
Very correct. This is my third time seeing it.
Third time seeing it?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, we've all seen it now. We're coming back to discuss It Follows. If you have not seen It Follows, go watch It Follows. It's a really good movie. But also, spoiler warning going ahead. Bam, 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 bam. Spoiler warning. We are going to spoil the shit out of It Follows going forward. Does anyone want to give a plot summary of It Follows before we dive into this movie?
I am ready. So, okay, I'm going to be honest.
He's ready, man.
Not only do I have a synopsis, I have written it in the form of an honest trailer. So strap in.
Oh my God. We're not going to get sued, are we?
No, I presume not. I mean, if anything, it's an homage. We love honest trailer on This Is Why You Die.
Everyone go watch honest trailers. They're great. Please don't sue us. Okay, go ahead, Ryan.
All right. This summer, what if STD stood for sexually transmitted demon? Meet Jamie Height, a young college girl who is dating a new man named Hugh. But when Hugh pulls out the chloroform after a late-night romp in his car, Jamie discovers that Hugh has a few more secrets than those hidden in his trunk. Soon enough, Jamie meets her newest friend in town, one who likes to change faces and has two main hobbies, cardiovascular health and it's getting as close as possible to Jamie. Embark on a wild journey of driving around the local scenery, exploding doors and windows, and the most awkward young adult sex scenes you've ever seen on the silver screen. You won't believe the amount of screen time dedicated to young women in swimsuits, or underwear, or nightgowns. Also, do planes not exist in this universe? They all say that all it can do is walk, yet why not just hop across the pond and swim in the Mediterranean? Come on, guys. It Follows, rated R.
Wow. Very good, Ryan.
All right.
Very good.
not only a plot synopsis, but a bit of an op-ed as well from RyanRossLIVE there. A bit of dipping into critique.
Like I said, it had to be, it's like an Honest Trailer. Honest Trailer throws in some of those of like,
Why don't they just leave the country?
That's not the point.
They could just go away, but they don't. They stay in their town.
Oh, I cannot wait to get into this because of what you said in that opening is a very big misconception about this movie.
Oh,
and
really?
What it's about.
Okay, now it makes it even more excited.
Really?
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Well, then what are we waiting for? Let's dive into David Robert Mitchell's 2014 It Follows. Dan, Marcha Madness, take us away. Get into it. What did you take away from that honest trailers that Ryan just gave that you want to talk about right there? You looked like you were bursting at the seams.
I was bursting because he said STD, and when I first saw this film, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. They turned the STD into an entity or something. But there's more to it than that, because as I thought about the movie and as I saw it a second time, I was like, this is more than just an STD movie. And like taking like it works in that way. It would make sense that you think that the first time, where you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you're transmitting this entity that comes after you through sex. Great, this is a STD movie. But in actuality, what this movie is really about is it's darker and it's deeper and it's sadder than that. And it's truly about, rape, and it's about being sexually violated, and how people just don't believe you, and the people like victim blaming, and how when you go through something like that, how hard it is to convince people that it wasn't your fault, and that guilt and that disbelief follows you around. And no matter what you do, you can't escape it. You just have to live with it. And you have to, lean on the people around you. And unfortunately, you have to bring in the people that, that are closest to you to help kind of lean on them. But in the end, there's no defeat of it. It's just something that a person lives with, and they can't get rid of it. So I think that a big misconception, and there's a lot of articles that have been written about this. It's a big misconception that this movie on the surface feels like it's just an STD movie. It's speaking on taking the sexually transmitted disease and turning that into this entity, but it's really about sexual violation and rape, and what it does to a person and how they deal with that, and how do they survive that, and how do they go on past that. So the fact that you said that, I think it's so exactly what this movie is trying to break through and discuss and talk about. And immediately, the first time I saw it, that's what I thought it was, the meaning and theme of what it was. And when I saw it the second time was when I was like, no, there's more to this. And that's when I researched it more, and I was reading articles about it, and I was kind of just reading what I think it's truly trying to say. So that's what I get from it. I don't know, Ian, what do you think?
I'm actually curious if Ryan saw any deeper meaning in this, or Ryan, did you actually, when out that you've seen It Follows, did you think it was a straightforward slasher that just happened to have like the window dressing of STDs, and like that was part of the concept, or how did you take it?
I'll be honest, I full on the STD line was more just because of the pun of ST Demon was like what I didn't actually
that seemed like a gimme. Like you had to do that just for that.
I just had to do that for that. I didn't like. I
don't blame you. That's a good one.
Yeah, and I recognize that there is the angle of like it could be viewed as an STD, but the thing is, to kind of what Dan was saying, like it's not like the consequences of the entity in the movie are like a disease that you like. I guess you gain the vision of the entity and whatever, and like you are giving that to someone else. But I actually was describing this to Sasha briefly of like, it kind of, rather than STD, I was kind of getting more of like, almost like a blockchain type vibe of like, well, you're giving it to someone else. You're hoping gets it further away from you so that you're not holding the thing. Like I didn't really attach to like the STD metaphor because it didn't feel super applicable. I also, although I can see the point that you're trying to make, Dan, in terms of like basically like I wouldn't say like rape, but maybe like taking sexual advantage of people, because like most of the movie's sex is consensual that we see, at least, right? Like everyone that participates in sex in the movie that we witness, it is willing participants that are going into it together. And they even ask her at one point, like, was it consensual? And she's like, well, yes, it was. That was before he chloroformed me, but at the time it was. And so, like, I don't know that I can fully get behind the rape angle because I don't think that we actually see any of that. But to kind of the point of the angle that I think you're going for, those people aren't generally sharing all the information up until we get to Jamie, who's kind of like, all of my friends, I'm going to give this information and we're going to figure this out together. She's kind of at least taken advantage of in terms of she's not giving all the information, which I guess almost leans more of an STD angle than a rape angle in terms of just like not sharing that. But I can definitely see kind of the taking sexual advantage or like the lack of full transparency that could be viewed within this angle as well. But I'll be honest, that wasn't what I took away from it, at least upon viewing.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't mean to put it on you that like that's exactly what you believed. I just think the fact that you said STD opened the door for exactly how.
Well, it's a common misconception. It's a common misconception. So it opens the door for that discussion. What is this movie really talking about? Because it's fairly obvious once you get at least a good ways into this movie. To me, at least, it seems pretty obvious. He's not just making a slasher movie. He's not just making a movie about one thing here where it's, if you have sex, it's bad in horror movies. Once you have sex, then you're, on the killer's list. I think he's taking that trope and then making something much bigger and more meaningful out of that. And there's a reason that this movie is held up as one of the major examples of a modern movement in horror movies, which is sometimes called prestige horror or elevated horror, where horror movies have a lot of the trappings of a standard horror movie, whether it be common tropes or patterns that you see in horror movies, but then they elevate it. They make it meta. They make it something different than what we've seen in horror movies before, and they make it more artistic. That has something more to say. Other movies that have been put in this category would be like Hereditary, The Witch, movies from that era, Babadook. Those are all movies from that era. Black Coat's Daughter, like they're all movies that A24 got famous for this kind of thing, making art house horror movies that weren't just blood and guts, that weren't just about being scared. They were about something more, and that's something that I think it's pretty easy to argue It Follows is. It's a movie about something more than just she's being chased by this creepy demon that only she can see, which is in of itself creepy, and it's definitely a scary movie. It's a very effectively scary movie, I would argue. There's quite a few very creepy scenes in this. But if we're talking about deeper meanings, right off the bat, I'm going to point out the fact that this movie has dream logic in it. The fact that he shot it in a way where it's anachronistic. You can't quite put your finger on what time period it is. There's, you have the CRT TVs and you have this weird clamshell device. It's not a phone and it's not a Kindle, but it kind of does both.
It's a weird magic clamshell, technological clamshell.
Yeah, there's 70s paneling on the walls, but yet they have cars that are from all different ages. There's
no
all
cell phones, but there's landlines, right? There's landlines all over the place.
I think I saw a cell phone at one point in the movie. I saw it and I forgot to go back and double check. But there's definitely like the clothing goes all over the place. Like sometimes they're wearing winter clothes and yet sometimes they're outside.
The girl at the beginning has the cell phone. She calls from the beach.
Oh,
there
right.
It is.
That's right.
There it is. But then other times they use landlines. Like the logic is all over the place and it's intentional. And there are so many little details in this movie. Little details. The more I watch it, the more I see the fact that we never see an adult's face.
Oh,
the mom's face is always hidden or blurred. We only kind of see the stuff around her. We kind of get an impression of what's going on, whether it be the sandwiches made with moldy bread or whether it's the fact that she's passed out in a room next to a bunch of bottles of wine. We see the father's picture on the wall, but we never see the father. That's the only adult face that we see, by the way, is that the picture of the father. And that's only to point out that that's the form that it takes at the end in the pool scene,
right?
Where it finally attacks her in the pool, and the sister asks, "What does it look like?" And she says, "I don't want to tell you." And then we see that it's a man, and later on we see the picture of her father. We realize it was her father. It had taken the shape of her father. All very subtle stuff, all very much like blink and you miss it kind of stuff. But it lends an overall feeling of this movie of being somewhat out of time, somewhat out of place, and so I think that's what allows it to step into that weird space where it can be about a lot more than what it seems like it is. It's not just about kids running from an unseen monster that's chasing them because it's communicated through sex. I think that is the surface level, and underneath you have all of this stuff about existentialism and mortality and loss of innocence and what it means to be human. And there's so much wrapped up in that, and that comes out in so many little details and scenes, and even like little lines in this movie, scenes that you don't notice what they're saying until you have that perspective, and then it starts all clicking into place. And that's why I love this movie, is because it is this beautiful like hall of mirrors, and the more you go down it, the more you see.
Well, there's also, I think, an angle to be made of the fact that it appears to her when it's closest to getting her as her father, and when it kills Greg, it's his mother. Like,
right.
That's clearly intentional.
Yeah, and they say that it might take on the form of someone you love, you know. And notice that a lot of times the forms that it takes are sexual violence forms, right? There's the disheveled prostitute at the one point. A lot of times they're naked, they're vulnerable, and the nudity is actually scary because it's so out of
it feels predatory.
Yeah, or just off, right? It feels wrong, but in a sexual way. And one of the things that I wanted to point out that I noticed this time was a lot of the references to literature, right? The friend who's reading The Clamshell, she's reading Dostoyevsky's The Idiot. And I don't know if you guys have read that book, and it's impossible to summarize here, so I won't even try. But the main character of it is somewhat of like this sort of innocent guy, right? The whole point is that he's very good-natured, and he really sees the best in people. He's what you would consider like a quote-unquote perfect Christian man. Very generous, very outgoing, sees the good in people, wants to see the good in people. And everyone thinks he's an idiot because everyone else in the story is like, he's so guileless, he's so innocent. How can you be that way? And the whole story is about how real society bounces off of this guy and plays with this guy, and how it affects him or doesn't affect him, and how he affects it by just being a good person. But more than that, The Idiot has a whole subtext about death, and they read that line at the end of the movie, where the Dostoyevsky quote that the friend reads to her while she's in the hospital bed at the end of the movie is a quote that is actually really powerful from The Idiot. Dostoyevsky himself, 20 years before he wrote this book, was considered a traitor to the Russian Empire, and he was lined up to be shot. He was going to be shot. He was literally seconds away from being executed by firing squad. And they said, never mind, we're going to pardon you and send you to Siberia instead. So that line in The Idiot about what it means to be close to death, and how like it's worse to actually than actually having wounds and being tortured. It's worse to tell someone you're going to kill them. This is the time that you're going to die. And as you get closer to that death, time seems to stretch, and it's really, really fast until right just before you die, and then it seems to stretch and grow. And Dostoevsky talked about what it was to be mortal, and how horrible it was to have a feeling like death was always coming. Like, you don't know exactly when, but when you do know exactly when, it's so much worse. And that the fact that there is that suffering that we have as humans, that we know we must die, but we don't know when, that's a major topic in The Idiot. There's an entire character who decides on suicide is the only way for him to get power over death, because he can control the time of his passing. And this movie is all about having death constantly following you. And that's just one of them. They also read from J. Alfred Prufrock, T.S. Eliot, which is about social anxiety, among other things. But so yeah, there's a lot of very literate stuff going on behind the scenes in It Follows. But before I monologue anymore, I'm going to stop and talk about it as a horror movie. Before, like, we've gone down the rabbit hole of its symbolism. What about as a horror movie? Because horror movies have something called rules, right? Dan, you are currently wearing a Nightmare on Elm Street shirt.
Yep.
Right? What is the big rule of Nightmare on Elm Street? Freddy's in your dreams.
Don't fall asleep. Don't
fall asleep. Freddy can only get you in your dreams, right? He's not just going to suddenly show up in real life. You have to be asleep for him to get you, right? That's the big rule. It Follows. What are the rules it tells you? What rules did you guys pick up on in It Follows?
It always is walking.
Always walking.
It's always walking.
It's always coming towards you, and you can put distance between you and it, but it will always arrive, and it will always, other people can't see it, but you can. and it will consistently change faces.
But if you have sex with others, it will help protect you for a little bit because you're at least passing that forward so that it puts some space. But if you don't tell the rules to that person, then it can kind of basically come get you even further. It's like,
well, I think it's if they die, right? If you can pass it along, but if they end up dying, then you are still next in line.
To you, right? Yeah,
yeah, and which is actually a really interesting one because I also think this movie is a lot about loss of innocence, very much about loss of innocence and death of childhood. And I think that the idea of passing on the awareness of your own mortality is something that we can get into. But famously, Quentin Tarantino said this movie broke its own rules because one of the rules is when it catches you, it kills you. And at one point, it catches up to her and grabs her hair, but doesn't kill her. Do you think this movie breaks its own rules at any point? Do you think that at any point, like, for example, it doesn't get into the pool, it starts throwing things at her? Is that breaking its own rules? Do you feel that this movie undermines itself because it gets you trapped in, because the rules are so starkly given to you at the beginning? Do you feel that we start hyper analyzing the rules and then it ruins the movie because it kind of breaks them or bends them?
I think, at least in terms of it catching her, I feel like that one I can kind of excuse because, to the credit of the scene, it can only get her by her hair in that moment, and everyone reacts so quickly that they are able to collectively get her to escape, which I feel like is unusual in terms of like how it's presented. It's generally that a lot of these people are dying alone. Like, don't let it touch you. It touched her hair. Is that her? Like, I could kind of get behind that one, but I do think that the pool one stood out to me of like, it's not, there was a lot of water in the movie. There's a lot of like, they're at an ocean bank, they're at a lake, they're at whatever, that like the water seemed to have some sort of symbolism. And then they do this pool scene, and at no point have we been explained any rules involving water. It can't pass through water or whatever, and it doesn't get in the water to get her. And then it does end up in the water and still manages to go after her. So like, clearly the water isn't a problem. So like, I do think that scene kind of fell apart for me in some ways. And also kind of one step further, they shoot it in the field and it goes down but keeps coming. And then they shoot it in the pool. They both shoot it outside of the pool before it drops in, and then they manage to shoot it again in the pool, which, by the way, talk about dream logic. The way that the bullets interact with water is not how bullets work with water.
Bullets don't work that way. I totally
bullets do not work that way.
Bullets don't work that way.
But assuming that we have video game bullet water logic, and they hit it in the pool, they hit it again in the pool, and that manages to incapacitate it, ? And like, they're like, I do think that scene falls apart pretty quickly. Also, it's throwing in all these electrical things that they plugged in, and she's not dead. So like, that whole scene seemed a little iffy to me. It was suspenseful, it was intense, but like, it was hard to take seriously because it is so many things that it had set up, literally sometimes in its own scene. It broke.
And also, I mean, I wanted to throw something at Paul in that scene because he was like, no, trust me, it'll work. Trust me, it'll work. He's got like 3 things that don't work in a row. He's like, trust me, we're going to go to this pool, and then we're going to lure it into the pool, and then we're going to throw in a bunch of electronics that we've lugged down here along with miles of extension cords, and then we're going to electrocute it. And if that doesn't work, we're going to shoot it. And what happens? It doesn't get in the pool. It starts throwing the electrical stuff in the pool. The electrical stuff doesn't work, so that's a terrible plan. He's like, okay, I'm going to shoot it. Ends up shooting his friend accidentally in the leg.
Yeah.
So that didn't work. And then he ends up just like wildly firing into the pool.
Like, they're like, where is it?
To see it.
Toro!
Right. And then he pops it in the head so it falls in the pool, and then it's still going. And so he's like, well, I'll just shoot it again. And he starts firing wildly into the pool and gets lucky and hits it in the head.
Yeah.
Man, I was, I'd have gotten out of that pool so mad at Paul if I was her.
Well, also, can we talk about, again, dream logic, right? There's this giant building with a pool in it that is gated off. There's nobody there. And the pool is perfectly maintained and still full. Like,
that stood out to me too. I was like, wow, this is really well kept pool for being shut down.
And as they pointed out, it's on the other side of 8 Mile in Detroit.
Yeah.
In the early 2010s. What?
So it's that's true. I was curious. I wanted to ask you guys because I didn't really fully understand. I feel like there's a point that he has it. I don't know if he's from Detroit, but why? There's a reason that he sets it in Detroit, especially to speak on the history of that city, but what did you guys take from that? 'Cause
He's
I fully
from
didn't grasp
Michigan.
it. He is,
David
okay.
Robert Mitchell is from Michigan.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just that. I just thought maybe there might have been some sort of like bigger meaning to it or something, but
Well, I think I thought it was a pretty good choice because of the dilapidation and kind of the contrast between the nice suburbs and the more dilapidated parts of town. I thought that worked really well. And I mean, they even had that scene where they talk about the delineation. They say, well, when I was a kid, my parents never let me go across 8 Mile without supervision.
Mm-hmm.
And here they are wandering across it, without a care in the world. To me, that seemed like it was talking a little bit about our childhood is over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's young adults being wistful for their childhood, and that happens a few times, right? Right after she has sex in the back of the car and contracts it for the first time, she's sitting there playing with a little plant and talking about like, oh, I always used to think when I was older it was going to be like this, and from one perspective, she's still a child,
Yeah,
but she thinks she's all grown up. And that's saying something, is that she's reached a point where she doesn't feel like a child anymore.
Well, she's straight up 19, which is also, I think,
Right.
adds to some of the discomfort of this movie. Of like this, like all of the sex in this movie is kind of uncomfortable and awkward,
Right.
and like it's like, oh, these like also like they have the hospital sex. It's like you would be hooked up to a heart rate monitor. A nurse would come in so fast. Like, again, dream logic, but like. There's
Dream
a lot
logic.
of like weird,
Writing it off.
there's like some weird stuff in that. Or also there's like a couple scenes, both with Paul and then also with Jamie, where towards the end, after Greg's already dead and they're trying to figure out what to do or whatever, she like goes into a lake with dudes on a boat, and it almost seems to imply like she's going to try and like pass it off to them. But then we just switch scenes and that's gone and never referenced. And Paul does the same thing after he gets it from her, with like two prostitutes on the side of the road, almost implying he's going to pass it off. And then that also leads nowhere. And those just seemed really out of place. Like there is some oddness throughout the movie that just kind of are I don't even know what I would call them, loose ends, as much as just like extra material that doesn't really turn into anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily mind that. I mean, there's shots of the trees that don't have any part in telling the story, but it adds to an overall feeling in this, and I think that's kind of more of the point. And I don't know, I didn't think that, I mean, the sex scenes were awkward, but I didn't see them as being strangely awkward. I'm like, that's young kids they're not out here being porn stars.
It's not inaccurate.
Yeah.
No,
it's just awkward.
I don't think. No, you weren't out there being Peter North when you were 19,
No,
Ryan Ross
and I'm
Live.
not to be fair, I'm not saying I was. I'm not saying any of it's inaccurate. I'm just saying it's awkward.
I was a sex god when I was 19. You should
Let me tell you about my exploits, boys.
I was slinging hog like a pro.
Oh,
All
God.
right? None of this awkward hospital bed sex. Not for Ryan Ross Live.
These are things we don't have to cover on the podcast.
No, but okay, but so was the dream logic game breaking for you ultimately? Like, it sounds like there's some things that weren't working, but was that aspect of the filmmaking something that didn't work, or did it actually elevate the movie? Because I from my perspective, I felt like it elevated it and it gave it more room to work with its themes, but it sounds like it's something that didn't always work.
I mean,
for you.
I liked it. I thought that overall, I thought the movie was good, and I thought that it followed its own logical progression pretty well. Like there were some surprises, and there were some oddities, but it all felt pretty fluid for the most part. Other than like, I think the pool scene just falls apart in most angles. But outside of that, and like I said, just kind of some of these loose, dangly bits hanging around, no pun intended.
Oh God.
I think generally the movie holds itself together pretty well, and the concept is cool and novel enough that I do feel like it chugs. I feel like it has some good momentum to it, even if there are these kind of oddities about it.
Dan, Marcha Madness, you're a filmmaker. How did it work for you? Do you feel like as a film that it had artistic credibility, or do you feel like he was trying too hard?
No, I don't think he was trying too hard. I think that the fact that he is, he gives nods to other classic horror films throughout this movie, and I think
massively.
And then by him making up these rules that then don't really apply are very much, I think, what it means to grow into adulthood, where you as a kid, you think, oh, once I'm adult, I'm going to know what life's all about, and as an adult, you're still trying to figure, I'm, as at my age, I'm still trying to figure things out. And when I was young and I knew how old my parents were, I was like, oh, okay, they know what to do. They've got everything figured out. And it just, as you get older, you realize that you're still always trying to figure life out. And I think that that's really interesting to say that about this movie, is that they set these rules, but even these rules don't really even work, because you set up rules as a kid knowing like, okay, when I'm an adult, I'm going to do this, I get a job, I do this, I get married or whatever. And that isn't always the case for what life throws at you. And that's exactly like what you're saying. If this movie is, really talking about the loss of innocence and becoming an adult and facing adulthood, is that there is no game plan that works. You have to figure it out, and you're still always figuring it out. So I think that what he's setting up artistically does work well. I love the fact that it is timeless, that you don't know what time period you're in, and it makes it a lot more kind of haunting in that way, that it's one of those horror films that, for me, the scares don't carry on viewing after viewing. I wasn't scared in this movie anymore. Like by this third watch, I remember watching it the first time, and there was some great moments, like the tall dude that steps into the bedroom. All those
such a
moments
cool
are
shot.
so
Such a
scary.
cool
There's
shot.
some really great stuff, but like, it's not scary anymore. But the themes now stand out, and you get to dive in deep about more what this movie is saying, and so that's why I think it still works for me, even if it's breaking its own rules. I think that's the point of it, is that there are no rules as you grow. You just have to figure out life that works for you. If Quentin Tarantino said it, I think he's right. I don't know if he faulted it for that, but I think it kind of worked in his favor.
He did. I totally disagree with him. I think that it follows its own logic. And I think one of the things that it sets up is that the only thing we know about this thing is what the one guy tells us,
Right.
and what they find out. There's no real rules for this. They can make up the rules as they go. And at the end of the day, the only thing that gets in its way is that as an audience, when we hear it, we kind of believe it. And unless the film explicitly shows us that it's not a narrator to be trusted, that we shouldn't trust these rules, then we take them as gospel. And it's something that we get hung up on as an audience if you don't follow them at some point. By the way, real quick before we get past it, that amazing shot we were talking about, tall guy coming through the door, not CGI. That was a real dude. His name was Mike Lanier. He was a 7'7". He's passed away now. Rest in peace. But that was a real dude, a real big dude. The ending is somewhat open-ended, somewhat controversial. What do you think the ending means? The two of them walking down the street hand in hand, and maybe something's following them? Maybe not?
I think something absolutely is following them, because I still feel like the major theme can be seen of, like, when something terrible like this, if we talk about sexual violation, or if that's one of the aspects that it's touching upon, is that, there's not some cure for it. There's not some element that if something clicks and you can break free. I think that in terms of trauma and things that happen, is that, and you have to learn how to live with it, and you can have the comfort of somebody that is willing to help take that burden along with you. Just like hit her the what was it, Paul?
Oh,
Paul,
he
the dork
loves her enough that he's willing to take that and hold her hand and be with her. But there's always going to be that behind them. There's always going to be that element that they have to live with and kind of carry with them, because I think that behind them, walking down the street, it definitely is still following them.
Human connection can keep your perception of mortality at bay, but it's always going to be there. Death is always going to follow you. But, maybe love and human connection can hold it at bay a little bit longer. Is that what you read, RyanRossLIVE? What did you think of the ending?
I agree that it's definitely still following them. I think that we don't know what it is, and we have no way of knowing how it dies, and there's no clear evidence that they would have killed it in that moment. And so I definitely still took it as they're being followed. I'll be honest, I did not like the fact that they ended up together. I felt like out of the way that the story sets it up, it came across as like he is very selfishly taking advantage of the situation to get with her because he wants to get with her. To me, it didn't really seem like Dan, I know you said that like he loves her enough. It to me, it didn't seem like they knew each other, like they had known each other since kids and they were friends or whatever. But it was also very evident that like as adults, they had kind of grown apart and there was a distance, and that he still like kind of pined after her, but wasn't really as present in her life anymore, which to me indicates at this point, you don't really know each other as well anymore. And he also interrogates her in a kind of toxic way of like, why did you choose this other guy? He's like jealous in the middle of the movie. Like there's like all these behaviors that I like view as big red flags of like, this guy's not a healthy person to be with in this circumstance. And they end up together kind of by trauma bonding necessity, I think, of like the circumstance of like, okay, like we're in this together. Like, I'm not going to do this alone. Sure. But I didn't view that as a loving action. I viewed that as like, he's involving himself because he wants to be with her and she's desperate and he's taking advantage of that circumstance.
My man, Paul, was biding his time.
Yeah.
He was just waiting. He was waiting for her to kill enough guys.
So it's like, it's kind of like a sour.
Killed off the rest of the guys she slept with.
The ending was kind of sour for me with that, of like, they're still being followed. And like, also, I don't know if this was intentional, but she's in kind of the same colors and kind of dress vibe throughout the whole movie. I joked about how often they're in swimsuits or whatever, but like, at least she has like a certain aesthetic to her throughout the movie. And then they do this weird black and white, like almost like churchy, like American gospel vibe outfits for the two of them at the end, where they're like both monochromatic, and she's got this weird, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but it was like this lace, like almost traditional, like collar top thing. And I was like, the image was starkly different enough for me that it felt like a manipulated situation. And I was like, I don't like this.
It's funny. I took it as them being more adult, them dressing more adult and less like children.
Interesting. That would make sense. Yeah. Especially from the loss of innocence angle. I took it as like more of like she's being trapped into this like traditional role, which to be fair is also kind of an adulthood loss of innocence thing of like being molded into a specific niche. But yeah, I didn't like that element, but I did like the fact that it was still there.
Wow. I mean, I disagree with Ryan there, because I think that Paul saw all the faults that she made. He saw how dangerous it could be to still be with her, and yet he chose to take on the burden because he cared enough for her. Like, I think if you want to talk about someone manipulating her, it's the guy Greg. What's his name? Greg.
Greg. Yeah.
Greg.
By the way, Greg, by the way, played by Daniel Zavato, who is actually a fantastic actress. He's a fantastic actor too. He was in The Pope's Exorcist recently, and he was a great part of that movie. He's still out there doing horror movies. So,
oh, nice.
And Dan, for what it's worth, I hope that you're right. I would like to presume that he's well intentioned and that is all like a virtuous act. At least from what was, and maybe like it could just be the way that it was portrayed, but to me, it didn't come across that way, and it was concerning. But I would like to hope that people are good enough that you're correct.
Yeah, no, I mean, I took it as like he knew he had seen what happened to Greg. He knows that like by sleeping with her, he's pretty much like taking on death, and he could die himself. And that he would do that and then find other ways to help pass it along, like by sleeping with prostitutes. Like he's trying to help figure out any way to get through it. And so I saw him differently than I guess you did.
I don't know. He was
Ryan, not a fan of Paul, but were you a fan of Micah Monroe's character? Her first horror movie, by the way, she just was recently in Longlegs, and I thought she was fantastic in this. What do you think about her character? Do you think that she was a worthwhile heroine, or do you think that she had some culpability with a lot of the actions that were going on?
I enjoyed her as a heroine. I didn't really have strong feelings either way, but I don't really think that she's culpable. I think generally speaking, she did come across as just like an organic teenager. She was just living her life and dating and hanging out with her friends and doing stuff around town and whatever. Like none of that really stood out to me as anything crazy. There was definitely a moment, I think, before, like when she went downstairs and Paul was like on the couch or whatever. I thought in that moment, in that scene, that maybe she was going to try and manipulate Paul into taking it on for her. But then they get interrupted by it arriving and whatever, and I'm like the plot pivots, but at least for that, it seemed like she was kind of like, especially because he's like, I can stay over, and she's like, yeah, absolutely, and her sister's like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. Like there was like some elements of like, it seemed like she was like, I am good, like I know you want me, and I need this thing gone. And then the plot pivots.
His sister was like, yeah, he kissed me long ago. I know he's a playboy.
Yeah, right.
I know everyone thinks Greg's the fuckboy. It's really Paul over here who was the teenage kiss master.
And so, like
they were wary of Paul, as they should be.
Honestly, like I didn't feel like she was like crazy good or crazy bad, but she was believable. I thought, that
she was a messed up teenager who just made mistakes, as we all do. And it was a simple mistake that had consequences that were going to last for the rest of her life. But one thing I wanted to talk about as well, really quick before we wrap up here, is influence. This movie came out in 2014, 2015-ish. I think it got its wide release in 2015, but it is considered to have come out in 2014. What came out the next year? Stranger Things. With a very similar kind of vibe and a very similar kind of soundtrack. You have that amazing score from Disaster Piece in this movie. In my opinion, one of the greatest scores in horror movies of the modern era. And the director actually found him because he did the score for the video game Fez, which came out a couple of years before this. And so he's very good at like chiptune and 80s synthwave kind of stuff.
Personally, the soundtrack has a lot of meaning to me because one of my short horror films that I did called Stay Inside, I listened to it constantly while I was writing it. Like there was a creepy moment that I had at my apartment where I lived in Mid-City in LA, and it spurred it, but I had just seen It Follows, and as I was writing it to get into the mood, I was constantly listening to this soundtrack. I think that it's so well done. It's so good. It's just so like it's
he
like
wrote
it
it in 3 weeks. He wrote it in 3 weeks, dude. He wrote it in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's got, and I think that's what helps it feel like, it feels like that throwback 80s, and that's why it feels like some people can see it, some people can't. That's why I feel like it has that nod to Nightmare on Elm Street. A lot of the walking around the neighborhood felt like John Carpenter Halloween,
100%.
So there was a lot of really cool horror references in this.
Yeah, a lot of great DNA in it, but then I think it passed it right along. I don't think Stranger Things happens the same way without this movie. I think there's a lot of movies that went, oh, well, we can do synthwave. We can do multiple time periods. I think that, we were talking about Longlegs and the Monkey and Osgood Perkins. I think he took a lot of inspiration from that kind of idea of, well, I don't have to stick to one decade. Fantastic. Let's make it a lot of decades at once. So I think it does have a lot of influence after itself. But I want to end on something here that's I've just learned recently. There's a sequel in the works.
Yes, I did hear this.
Called They Follow. Do we think this movie needs a sequel?
Needs? No. Could have? Yes. I'd be interested in a sequel. Do I think it's necessary? No. I don't think that it's like a mandatory thing, but like I'd see a sequel.
I'd see it, but I'm worried about it. I'm worried that it's going to, get too stuck on the rules. It's going to try to redefine the concept. I have a feeling that a lot of things that make this movie meaningful right now are going to be thrown out the window or diminished by having a sequel. Dan, are you ready for a sequel?
I'm curious what he's going to do. I'm the fact that it's called like They Follow. If he could take the metaphor of what happens and kind of turn it on its head and kind of compare it to something else that is maybe currently, another theme, maybe it's not necessarily like sexual in the way that it passes, but what if it starts passing a different way, and then that can be compared to something that he's stating about society now, or just a different element of growing, then maybe that's how it twists and becomes something more unique. It still keeps the same element, but what if we pass it along in a different way? What
if it's passed along on like a VHS cassette and you watch it and then 7 days later you die?
Watching, hearing, well, then you got The Ring. But, so like, I'm curious. I don't know. Like when I heard that it was happening, I got kind of excited, but like you said, I'm a little bit fearful. Micah Monroe's really great in horror. She's kind of like our new Scream Queen, I think. So, it'll be cool to see what she does with this too. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not like can't wait till it comes out, but I am curious to see what they do with it.
What do you think about the name? Should we change the name? Is there a better name that we could have used for it?
They Follow.
Or
maybe.
just It Follows.
Like,
are there any better names for It Follows? Is there a better title we could have used for this movie?
This could be, what I think of if you get a throwback to the movie. Another great horror movie of Signs is It's Behind. Famous It's Behind.
It's Behind.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Joaquin Phoenix screaming at the TV.
Yeah. Something like that, or creepy rotating camera movie. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of spin shots in this movie. There's a lot of full spins.
Yeah.
Very impressive on how consistent and how smooth those were. And also the zoom ins, those were beautifully done.
I still
Very
think
nice.
one of the greatest opening sequences in a film, definitely just this static camera is just rotating, and you just see the horror unfold of what's going on with this girl and why, like you can tell the neighbors like something's wrong here, but what's going on? And then her poor dad's like, I don't know what's going on with my daughter. Like that rotating sequence is really
Why is
cool.
she in a skimpy nightie in her heels?
Yeah,
why
really
are you running in your heels,
up
girl?
So much of this whole movie in just this one shot rotating camera. But yeah, it rotates or something like that. I don't know.
It rotates.
It rotates.
What about you, Ryan? You got any other names for It Follows? Let's go around and see if we can get a whole bunch of new names for It Follows.
I apologize for the list that I'm about to provide, but it has to happen.
No!
So
he's been marinating.
Other names for It Follows by RyanRossLIVE. Penetration. Sexual predator. Pump pass.
What?
Wow.
It comes from behind. And Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can is really good.
God.
I like Catch Me If You Can. That's really good.
I think my favorite is Pump Pass.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. All right, I'll play.
Good.
I'll play.
Yeah.
All right, if we're gonna go rude, Ryan Ross Live, I can definitely play Death Badge for Cutie.
Oh,
okay. Yeah.
Last Smash. Or possibly my personal favorite, Slasher Pussy That Kill.
I considered throwing in Breaking and Entering, but I felt like it was a little too...
Wow. Man. Wow.
It was a little violent for what
That's a little
happens
violent.
in the movie.
That's
I still
come
do.
on.
I think Pump Pass is pretty good. That's a pretty good one.
I couldn't not. It was right there.
My goodness. All right. Well, now that we've devolved this show through the floor, it's time. I was going to say, I don't know if we have a Mike Logan award in this. I don't know if there's anyone that I'm like, F that guy. I don't think there is anybody. Even the guy, even Hugh, the guy that gives it to her in the first place, we find out later he's just a scared kid.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but also
the way he set up that house.
And he's as helpful as he can be. Like, he's doing it for himself to make sure it doesn't come back to him. But at the same time, like, but he's doing his best. He's trying to survive.
To be fair, he also hides all of that information until he's already screwed her into it. I would still say that out of everyone,
very good point.
He actively deceives her. He rents a house under another name. He dates her. He goes on multiple dates with her, lying to her the entire time. And then after everything, once he finally convinces her to sleep with him, then he's like, all right, checklist done. No holds barred. Now I'm going to help you. I promise it's for you, he says.
Now that I've given you a deadly disease that will kill anyone else you sleep with, let me help you out here. Let me tell you the rules.
Now that I tricked you and trapped you, now that you are literally within the circumstance, now I'm going to give you all this information. Good luck.
I'm going to dump you in the road outside of your house in your skivvies. Okay, bye.
Don't let it touch you. I'd still say fuck that guy.
I'm agreeing with Ryan there. I think that if anybody deserves it, it would be him.
Yeah, if anyone has to. I don't think he's anywhere near the league of our man Mike Logan.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
but in this movie,
in the spirit of F that guy, well, actually in this case it's don't F that guy. Don't fuck that guy award is given to you in It Follows. All right. Why did someone die in It Follows? Not a ton of candidates in this movie. So a lot of kind of, I don't think there's many like dumb decisions in this, aside from questionable decisions. Like, why the hell are they, going to a weird random pool and trying to drown the damn thing? But
Yeah.
not a lot of people died for dumb reasons in this. Well, we only had, I think, two deaths? Greg
Two.
and girl at the beginning?
Is
Any
it
other
really
deaths?
just those two?
I can't think of any other ones off the top of my head.
Wow, that's true. Yeah, no one else did actually die.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Interesting.
crazy, actually. That's
Wow.
Yeah.
Low body count.
Wow.
The It Follows, or It, whatever it is.
Not a very
dragging
successful
way
killer.
behind. No, it's you know why? It's walking everywhere. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
so
true.
slow.
It's so slow.
And to be
It's,
fair,
you
then
know.
like sometimes it decides to yell at you. Like it'll break a door and be like, sometimes.
Yeah, not a very effective slasher. I got to say, for a walking metaphor for the inevitability of mortality, it's really not terribly good at killing people. But we do have Greg and the girl at the beginning.
I've got one for Greg.
Any thoughts, guys, on why they died? I'll start. It's my movie.
Go
I'll
for it.
start. The girl
Go
at the
for it.
beginning. Get out your heels, girl.
That's true.
What are you doing? You're not outrunning this thing in your heels. I was watching this thinking of every woman I know who would watch this movie. The first thing they would say would be, get out of your heels.
Well,
now.
honestly, even beyond that, she takes a car and then just sits there. She just gives up. Like
In
goes
her
to the
heels
edge.
on
Yeah.
the beach. She dies with her heels on. That
Mhm.
that
Do you think she-
iconic shot with her leg bent backwards and ripped apart.
True.
She still got her damn heels on. I know it's for metaphorical effect. I know it's for the analogy. I know it's for the imagery, but damn it, it drove me nuts.
Yeah.
I'm going to set aside the anyone in this movie could take a plane and go across the ocean, and in theory, this thing either couldn't get them or would take ages to get there.
It would get.
But
be
dream
there.
logic. So I'm going to set that one aside, even though that's a very blatant thing here. But I'm going to say Greg specifically has seen all of this stuff happen, has witnessed both the Jeff/Hugh and Jamie make window traps and stuff, and is like, I'll probably be fine, and sleeps in his house with no protection, no warning, doesn't answer the phone, doesn't listen to her not open the door, and just goes, Mom, what do you want? And opens the door like a dumbass.
That's what
Yeah.
happens when you're a high school fuckboy. You don't have the same survival instincts. You should. You take everything for granted,
Yeah.
And then it gets
Yeah.
you.
And then gets you.
Life comes at you fast. You think you're a big deal in
Yeah,
high school.
I'm agreeing with Ryan. I mean, there's only a couple people to pick from, but yeah, and Greg just doesn't fully believe it. I think he just sees the opportunity. He even says, like, even after he sleeps with her and nothing happens for a few days, he's like, yeah, something happened. It's just not what she thought it was.
Mhm.
Like, he fully doesn't really believe it, and because he doesn't believe it, that's what gets him killed.
He gets succubus
So-
by his own mom.
Yeah,
Oh.
man, that was dark.
It's a rough way to
That was
go.
gross. Yeah, man.
That's a rough way to go.
Oedipus has words.
Mhm. Well, I've got words for this movie. It's Scully Award time. We got to rate It Follows. And as it was my choice, I will go first. I love this movie. I think it's a modern classic. It does fall apart, as you say, in the third act. It does kind of go to pieces as a horror movie, even though I think that it does keep up its deeper meanings and its metaphors all the way to the end. And I think it's very strong on that. I would love to give it a 9.5, but the whole pool scene drags it down to a 9. But it could very easily go up over the years as I keep rewatching it and finding more really amazing details in this fantastic movie. So I'm going to go with a 9 for It Follows. Dan, Marcha Madness, you are the other person in this room who has seen It Follows before, so I'll go to you next. What Scully rating do you give to It Follows?
I am going to go with an 8. I think it is an excellent horror film. I think it is, like you said, a classic. The reason I'm knocking it down a little bit is that, for those exact reasons of, like, some scenes fall apart that don't necessarily work. The pool scene, kind of goes all over the place. And so that is a bit confusing. Also, too, I think that horror movies that I rank like really high, the scare factor is still there when I rewatch. Like, I still get jumped, or I still get frightened, but upon this third rewatch, I wasn't necessarily scared at all anymore. And so I think that that's why it's not top perfect, was because I don't feel that tension anymore that I did upon the first viewing. I remember being very tense and wondering what was coming next. And now that I've seen it, but now a third time, I was more focused on what does this mean and what do these themes mean and what's trying to really be said, because the scare of it all was gone for me. So that's why I would give it an 8. Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. It still worked for me. I mean, I wasn't getting scared, but I definitely got the arm pricklies when he opened the door and the mom's just standing there staring at him all creepily. And the scene where she comes into the kitchen and there's the disheveled woman who starts peeing on the floor. I still got the pricklies there because the music really kicks up and it's still really creepy. And this is the third time I've seen it. So maybe results will vary with this movie. Ryan Ross Live. Speaking of results varying, what Scully rating do you give to It Follows?
Honestly, I'm going to split your guys' difference. I'm going to give it an 8.5. I liked it.
All right.
I think that it's good. I think the concept is really novel and interesting. And I think for the most part, it plays that concept well. I do think that there's some odd things that don't go anywhere. I think that we've mentioned the pool scene just kind of falls apart entirely. And also the CG of the rain on the building is so bad, like really jarringly bad for that scene for no reason. And then honestly, like it just, I'm not a big fan of the side characters. Like I think she's good. I think Greg's good. I think Paul's okay. I think the sister and the other girl are kind of ancillary and don't really contribute a whole lot. And so they feel kind of like baggage that are just kind of carried along the way for the most part. Like, yeah, to your point, the one girl delivers some cool literary references, but she doesn't really contribute to the plot in any real way other than getting shot on accident. And so like there's some stuff that just kind of feels extraneous, for lack of a better word. But I liked it. It's fun. I enjoyed memeing on it a little bit. It's a fun concept. It's a unique and kind of ethereal concept that's interesting to ideate on, and in that way it's fun. And also I had fun memeing on it a little bit. So that added some enjoyment to me. But yeah, I'd say 8.5.
All right. Well, a solid rating overall from all three of us for It Follows. I'm very happy with that. And I would be happy to pick another prompt right now as I'm out of one. But we're not doing that these episodes because this is the end of our 8th cycle of movies, which means we're coming close to the end of season 1 of This Is Why You Died. We've only got one more episode before our big, grand season finale, which is going to have all kinds of very cool content in it. We're going to play some games. We're going to re-rate some movies. We're going to do a whole bunch of crazy stuff to wrap up season 1. And we have some big announcements for what's happening for this show going into season 2. We got some very ambitious stuff coming down the pike, y'all. So I'm very excited to talk about that more. But right now, we're going to talk about what's coming on the next episode of This Is Why You Died, which is Ryan Ross Live's pick. Ryan, tell us what we're in for.
All right. So my prompt is Mist/Fog. And I will state that I know that both of you would very much like for me to pick either the mist or the fog. Here is where I will say I have a little bit of pressure considering that this is the last analytical episode of season 1. And so I decided to have a little bit of fun with this at potentially all of our expense. So
No.
we are going to set aside the mist because the mist there is only one of. But there are 2 versions of the fog.
No.
There's the original.
Ryan.
Hold up. Follow me down the path, boys. There's the original, which I know is the one that you guys would like to see. And there's a remake, which I looked up and has a review score of 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. So, considering that this is the last analytic episode of the season and we want to make it fun, I'm going to leave it up to fate. And I have a coin here.
Oh, no.
And we're going to flip this coin and see which version of the fog we are going to watch.
This is probably the closest to real horror that we've experienced on this show. Horrifying. No.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Well, it's got to be exciting,
Oh my God.
right? We got to do something exciting for the last second. All right.
I'm already sweating.
I am already mad that you passed Stephen King, Frank Darabont for whatever you're going to do right now. So I'm already mad at that. So just
Hey,
toss your
You
freaking
made
coin,
Dan
man.
mad.
I'm mad.
You made Dan mad.
You
I'm
got
sorry,
the mist,
Dan.
man. You chose the mist. You could have just sailed through, and we could have talked about a great movie. But all right, let's do it. Fine, let's go.
All right, come on, Two-Face. Are we gonna live or die?
I love Two-Face. So
Apparently you do.
Who was in the mist? He was in the mist, wasn't he? No, he just kind of looks.
No,
like
that's a different.
It's
no.
the
I
other
was
guy.
gonna
They kind
say,
of look
he's
like
in
the same
DC.
guy.
That's a whole different.
Jane.
I know. They
all right,
kind of
all
look
right.
like the same actor. You're right. I'm wrong.
So heads, we will do the original, the Fog, and
The John
tails,
Carpenter.
we will do the remake of the Fog. And I'm
Wait
gonna
a minute.
Yes.
Wait a minute. You're okay. You're a Dungeons and Dragons man.
Yes, I am.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of one you are. We did Green Room on our last episode. You didn't see the Dragonlance Dragons of Spring Dawning book in the van, but you should have a thing of dice over there, shouldn't you?
I do. Would you like me to roll
So
instead?
how does that work?
I say we D&D roll this thing.
Whoa!
I say we D&D roll this thing.
Well, I will say that this is technically
that.
a D2 in terms of D&D stuff, but
I'm-
I'll get my dice back.
I'm aware of the two sides of a coin. However, I say that we do
I have
a
to grab
D&D
it.
roll. Okay. All right.
My.
Ryan's
Oh,
running off. He's gonna grab the D20.
Okay, can you
We gotta-
explain? Because I am not as
It's-
versed as
Well,
you guys are.
I think we're just basically gonna make it like a really fancy coin where we do like everything 10 and up is gonna be
Gotcha.
yes, and everything 9 and below is a no. Maybe we'll
Okay.
even do like maybe we can even make it fun and have it be like an instant fail roll where like if he rolls a 1, we have to do the new fog automatically.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
I have a whole bag. Let's see what's the
God.
what's the most horrific dice I have here. What's the most scary looking?
Do you have one with a skull in place of the 1? That'll work.
No, I do have a red pair.
All
It's
right,
like
that'll
kind
work.
of gothic. Oh, actually, no. Here we go. This is perfect. Half of it is green, and half of it is red. We got an even.
So it's a
split.
Christmas dice.
Nice.
Bit, I guess.
It's Christmas dice. It's not. That's not scary. It's Christmas.
Well, the one's on the red and the 20's on the green, which I think is what you guys want here. So we'll give it a shot. So 1 through 10 remake, 11 through 20 original. Yeah? Is this what we're going for?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
Yes. Oh God.
You guys
What
are
if-
going to
what
be
if
able to
there's
see probably.
What if the critical fail?
It is a 16. We're watching the original.
Oh, hallelujah. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank the Lord.
Can I get it to focus?
Okay.
Thank God. Oh, my God.
Thank you.
It's not gonna
Oh,
focus.
Okay,
That's
good.
okay. It's a
All right, good,
16.
okay.
oh God.
Whew.
Okay. Phew.
Okay. All right.
My heart was pounding out of my chest there.
We gotta add some suspense, boys. It's a show.
That was really
Oh.
good, though. That was good.
That was good.
It could have
Okay.
been hilarious
All
to
right.
rip on the one that apparently is terrible. The only thing I saw is I got a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes. I was like, that has to be at least in the running.
I have seen
Wow.
25 minutes, give or take, of the
Woo.
remake, and I'm never getting that 25 minutes back. The only reason here's the thing. If we watched it for this show, I have no doubt it would be a very entertaining show as we utterly demolish this movie, but we would have to watch it to do that. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it's worth it.
Hey,
It's-
we got to give the listeners something fun. Maybe
Oh,
they just want to
God.
hear us tear it apart. We don't know. That's why I figured a game of chance was a great way to end season 1.
And as you learned, Ryan, even God didn't want us to watch the new version of The Fog. Thankfully, the horror gods were kind to us, and we will be watching the original Fog by John Carpenter. Hallelujah. We can finally talk about one of my favorite actors of all time, Tom Atkins. I am so excited for this. That's a great selection pair of dice. Ryan's D20. Excellent selection. Oh, I'm still coming down. I'm still out of breath. I'm still so freaked out by the possibility.
I want everyone listening to know I did not tell them about this in advance, and purely for the reaction of like, we're going to play a game of chance to decide the movie, and the fear on both of your faces.
Ryan just pulled a jigsaw on us.
Yeah, he
Ryan
did.
just was like, oh,
I want to play a game.
am I picking a movie? I want to play a game. I'd like to play a game. You son of a bitch. All right. We're going to watch the original John Carpenter's The Fog on our next show, our last show of the first season. That's going to be a fantastic way to finish. Thank you very much, Ryan Ross Live. Thank you very much, Dan Marcha Madness. This has been a great episode discussing It follows. But following this, we will be back next time talking about the fog. Thank you all for joining us right here on
This is why you die.